If you've got no objections, I'll plunge into FamilySearch and how to dig out your Irish ancestors or anything else in FamilySearch. I'm going to go repeat that, Cole, from this morning.
Kathleen has something.
No, 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 no. I'm just saying yay.
Oh, okay.
Just 2 seconds, if I can interrupt, Bob. You put it in the announcements board rather than in the Hangouts board, so I'll move it.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, that wasn't too smart. Thank you, Colin.
That's all right.
But thank you so much, Colin. That is a great site, and I'm very thrilled about being able to write in rich text and not get my hands slapped. Yes, well done, Colin.
I don't know what you're talking about again.
The last thing in this newsletter for September was about the new bulletin board, and it's an improvement, in my opinion, over the forum, because everything is done by topics and you can just look at the topic you're interested in. And I told you kind of how to walk through and sign up. There's about 8 steps.
I have done that, but I haven't gone to it.
Okay, so I think when you go there, you're going to find that it's incredibly useful. It's kind of the 21st century bulletin board.
Okay.
Right, guys. Jim, you might not have seen this before, but in the top left of the screen, there's a screen share button. What that allows me to do is to show to you all on the Hangout what I'm looking at on my screen. So I'll show you my desktop.
Should I clear?
No.
Click on that?
You just follow along. The one thing you might want to do is when that comes up, let's not share that. When that comes up, then you might want to click on Bob's screen down at the bottom, because that'll keep it in the that'll keep it as your largest screen, no matter who's talking.
Okay.
Okay. Can you see my desktop now?
Yes.
Yes. I did for briefly. There it goes. Now click.
Now click on Bob's screen down at the bottom, and it'll keep it as your major screen.
Okay, this is some background to FamilySearch. I know you know what's on FamilySearch in principle, but
yes, I do.
I just wanted to highlight just how important a site it is for one-name studies. Down here, this little purple dot, the size of these circles represent the size of the universe. So this little dot represents the tiny US 1940 census. This dot represents what's been indexed so far in FamilySearch from the vault in Utah. And this circle represents the entire stock of films and resources available within Utah. So this shows how little, relatively, compared to what's available, has been digitized and indexed on FamilySearch so far. Plus, this little circle is what's being captured on an annual basis for new records. So my point here is FamilySearch is a site that you need to keep an eye on. So familiar stuff for here. What I prefer to do is to drill straight into the record sets. You can do this the other way.
It's going very fast.
Is it?
Yeah. So just for me to be able to follow where you're clicking, it's not perfectly clear as to where you're going.
Understood. Okay, I've just switched browsers and we're on the FamilySearch home screen.
Yes, I see that.
Okay, good. What I'm going to do now is go straight to Ireland. This will work for any record selection. Right down here at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So now we've got the list of sources available for England, and United Kingdom and Ireland. Let's search for Ireland. And here we've got all of the films related to, all the record sets related to Irish stuff. This is the one that's going to preoccupy us for today. Ireland Civil Registration Indexes, 1845 to 1958. There's 21 million entries, so we should be able to hunt through this and find some stuff to extract. Click on that record set.
I have a large question regarding that.
Yeah.
And that would be, once you know what the index information is, how do we as an organization support people who want to find the details? Because trying from the United States to get a certificate for each one of those index records that may be of interest is, well, in my opinion, it's impossible. financially and time-consuming and everything else. So that's one of my questions. Is there something the organization could do to facilitate that?
I think we're dependent upon random acts of genealogical kindness here.
I understand that.
That said, this record set in particular is just an index into the birth, marriages, and deaths.
Yes.
However, the FamilySearch guys have filmed some of the birth, marriage, and death registers themselves. And those can be looked at and viewed at a local family history centre.
Mm-hmm.
It's not complete coverage, but there is an article in the new bulletin board forum that gives you an idea about which registers are available to consult directly. And there's a worked example on the bulletin board as well.
And I think something else is realizing that what we're doing, part of what we're doing in a one-name study is, maybe working with the information that you have. Maybe there will be people who will go look at that information for you. And maybe it's just that you only have the index for a certain amount of time until more records come on, but you at least have, the first breadcrumbs, so to speak. And your one-name search, I think for a lot of us, when I first got started, I thought, oh, this shouldn't be hard to get together, and then you realize it's a very long-term prospect, and maybe you'll easily be... I'm hearing a lot of noise. Maybe you'll easily be able to find American records or records in your own state, but you are going to have to rely on other people going to courthouses, parishes, what have you, and that's just a slower process.
Yeah, thank you for that, Tessa. So back to Ireland civil registration indexes. We'll choose a surname, and here's one that's going to produce a lot of results. We're going to click on that.
Maybe not with that spelling.
Yeah, exactly. If I leave this box unchecked, then FamilySearch will generate a list of variants for me. Let's see what we find. So here we've got some 32,000 entries, so a little bit too much for me in my hobbyist approach. So let's narrow the list to 1,938. Okay, this has now produced a list of the first 20 hits of some 2,000 in a record list.
Clarification, yeah. Bob, clicking that checkbox is asking for an exact match?
Correct, Jim, yeah.
Thank you.
So we've got an exact match of all the KIOs for births, marriages, and deaths for the entire range of Irish civil registration. There is a little bit of detail tucked behind this JavaScript, clicking over here, that you can see, but this is typical of what we're seeing on newer sites, where there's more information to be seen on a page that's behind the summary screen. So really what we want to do is to be able to extract all of this rich detail that's been transcribed from the indexes. Here we've got a name, we've got a registration district, we've got the event type, quarter and year, estimated birth year because this is a death with an age, a film number from which this entry was taken, and the rich piece here is the volume number and the page number that we could look up if those registers existed or were available to us to find the birth details of this particular female KIO.
I have a question.
Of course.
Right. Bob, just before you stay on that screen as well for a second, let Jim ask his question first.
How relevant is the digital folder number and the image number? Because I'm not familiar with those.
Okay, not at all at this stage, Jim. Good question. This is how the church provide the films to the indexes for transcription. I don't believe you can use these numbers now, but it's possible in future. Colin.
Right, what I was going to say was a bit about the URL, Bob, and the unique URL. So Bob's just highlighted the URL there. If you look at the last 7 digits, Bob.
Yeah.
Is it 7? 7 plus a minus.
Right, FRXR.
Yeah, minus 6JQ, is it?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Now, that piece there of the URL is a unique reference to this person. And that is always going to refer to this person and only this person. FamilySearch are launching another product around the end of the year called Trees, which is a tree collaboration. And every individual in the tree will have a unique ID, and it will be based like this on 4+3. And what that means is that if you find the same person in somebody else's tree, you can then join those two together and have one unique ID. And so what they're looking at is to obtain a sort of a persona record that can be in several different people's trees, and what you've actually done is tied down one individual, and that individual will always have that ID on FamilySearch wherever you go in FamilySearch in the future.
Kathleen, is that your parrot?
I'm sorry, I'll go shut the door.
I thought somebody was fighting in the background.
You would be amazed at some of the noises that come out.
It's a good job it hasn't learned to swear.
Yeah. So simplistically, this is going to be a unique number. So as time goes on, we're probably going to want to record that unique ID from FamilySearch as well. Certainly come the end of the year, you'll be wanting to grab that that unique ID and record it wherever you record it going forward.
And
okay, Bob, back to you.
Thanks, Colin. And as Colin said, the URL up here, as Colin quite rightly says, is also copied down here. So we're perhaps approaching the stage where these URLs might be enough as a source citation in and of themselves. Personally, what I think we should do is attempt to grab all of this stuff, all of the rich detail, and this, so that we've picked up everything that's on this page that's consumable. So back to the summary screen. One of the things that's going to limit us taking the default approach to this layout is that we're only going to get 20 records. And we could click on each one, we could copy and paste the entries into Excel, transpose them, tidy them up. And for quite a large data set like this, it's going to take a significant amount of time. So the first thing we need to learn how to do is how to get more results on a screen. Can we increase this list from 20 to more? Up here in the URL, can you see where the count says 20? We could increase that to 200. And what it's then asking FamilySearch to do is to return for us 200 hits. And here's a
Very,
page.
very clever of you, Bob. You beat the system.
200. There's a caveat coming, but I'll explain that in a second. So there's 200. This is only really useful to you if you're going to use the scraper, or if you're going to try and grab everything from one page in a copy and paste kind of way. The second thing you need to be aware of is the maximum I found up here is about 499. When you scroll forward a page, to avoid duplications, it's still counting 200, so we've got 200 records on this page. Don't worry about the detail, not being able to see it. But can you see the offset?
Yes.
The offset here is 20, so it's picking up 21 to 220, so we've got a duplication of the last 180 records. So we have to make the offset the same to 200. Then what we get back by way of results is the list 201 to 400. And if we leave the count at 200 and just increment the offset by 200, we can scroll through the entire range. Okay.
Can I make a quick interruption? Kathleen, we're still getting a lot of noise from your end. If you can mute yourself until you have a question. Is anyone else getting?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. If you notice your green bar moving like mine is when I'm talking, and then I mute myself as well unless I have a question.
Okay.
How do you mute yourself?
Right at the top, towards the right, you've got a little microphone symbol
Got it.
with
I see
on
it.
it. Yeah,
Yes,
and
thank
you
you.
can just click on.
Yep.
Fantastic, thanks for that. So if you're going to extend the default away from 20, make sure that you set the offset as well. This should work for any data set on FamilySearch. Okay, let's now head to
I have a
Outwit.
question about this.
Yeah.
I had someone pull these records from the GRO, and I'm curious to know if anybody has done that and then also done it here on FamilySearch, and whether or not there's 100% correspondence. It's another source for the same information.
No, there's not. There's two things. The index, as far as I am aware, was transcribed by the folks in the London Family History Centre, perhaps in collaboration with folks in the US. I am pretty convinced the names that are on this index transcription are complete and accurate. There were instances in the past of doing some funnies trying to search by Irish registration districts, so I'm not entirely sure if that's been fixed, but I think that's fine. Can you get the original source births, marriages and death registers from anywhere other than the GRO, Ireland? The answer is no, with the exception of the films or the registers that have been filmed by the Mormon Church, and a list of those are available on the new bulletin board site.
So I guess the bottom line is, it worth it or not worth it if you already have the GRO index information to go to FamilySearch and do it again?
Oh, I see. No, if you've got it already, then no, there's no point.
Okay.
Unless you've only got a limited extract of stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
But the thing to bear in mind, Jim, is that the GRO index is a transcription from somebody at the local record office. So it is not the original records. The GRO only get a transcription quarterly from the local record office. So even the GRO index isn't 100%.
Yes.
Yeah, as long as you're aware of that. Yeah. Back to you, Bob.
Okay, thanks, Cole. So now we're going to switch to Outwit Hub. Outwit Hub is a tool that helps to mechanize the painful process of copying and pasting records from a website so that it can be exported in a format that's very, very easy to consume by a program like Excel or a database. I don't mean
this?
This is an application called Outwit Hub.
Okay, it's a software.
Yes, that's right. It's a standalone piece of software. There's three parts of the screen. This leftmost screen, I notice I have to do this quite slowly. This left-hand bit controls the extraction. This piece of the screen is essentially our view of the website that we're going to scrape data from. And this part of the tool is where we will export what we capture from this area of the screen for later export to some other format. So let me go back to the Irish records as I did using the other browser. Search for Ireland, grab the civil registration indexes, type KEO, up the count to 200. You'll see why this is important in a sec. And 3, 2, 1, appear. Hey, we've got exactly what we saw before. The first 200 records of 2,000 records for an exact spelling of KEO. Okay. Now if we pre-configure a tool to extract the data, and thankfully this morning Colin mentioned another way of extracting the data. Tessa, you might remember that we had some correspondence, and someone asked for a copy of the scraper files.
Kathleen.
Kathleen, okay. And I said that the previous scraper file had broken. Well, this morning it had failed again. Colin showed me a slightly different way of extracting the same data, and I think it works. So what I'm going to do now is look at the links on this page. Colin talked about this URL. I know it's a bit difficult for you to see. If I go back to the page and hover over one of these, can you see in the bottom, I can't take the mouse away, the bottom left-hand corner has got that URL. Okay, so what we're going to tell this tool to do is to search for all of the URLs that have the letter MM9. We're going to say to the tool, auto explore, do a fast scrape using a pre-configured extraction utility. So now I'm sitting back, and I don't know if you can see the top screen. It's automatically now looking at each page in the link, extracting the header that we saw, the name, the registration district, the event type, the registration quarter and year, the estimated year of birth, that's a calculated field based on the age. The scraper doesn't do this, the website does, and the mother's maiden name. The BMD index film, volume number, page number, digital folder number, image number, no use, but we might as well grab them. And then the final piece is the citation that was on the bottom of the page.
So it's grabbing all that information so you don't have to open up that triangle on each page. It's taking everything in the table that either appears on the website when you first look at it or backs it up.
In essence, yes, Tessa. It's actually probably doing even more. That little triangle, I think in some occasions, is just a summary of what's on the page behind.
Okay.
This is actually going to that page behind, grabbing the data, copying it here, going back to the 200 page, and then following the second link.
Okay, are we going to see 200 records show up or almost 2,000?
Good question, Jim. We're going to see 200.
Okay.
Because we set up here the count to be 200. We explored, this tool will now go off and explore 200 links and grab the data. I'm going to stop it there because I think that gives you an idea.
I have another question. I notice you have Outwit Hub Pro. I just looked at the link and there's a free download.
Yes.
But it's not the Pro version.
You're right. I will come to that.
Very good. When you get a chance, I'm curious.
No problem. Up here, I've stopped it prematurely, and it's saying that I've scraped 23 rows. If this was pink or red, you can drag this list down and get a log of what went wrong, or that something went wrong. Unfortunately, if something goes wrong with this kind of approach, you have really got to start all over again. But what I want to show you before moving off here is I'm right-clicking, select all, and then down here, catch. And that puts everything that's in the top half of the screen into the capture area. And you can now move on to other subsequent pages, grab a second 200, select them all, catch them, and this will slowly fill up with your 2,000 odd kios. When you're done,
if you forget to catch them and you move on to another page, you've just lost everything that you've just spent 10 minutes, 15 minutes screen scraping.
Absolutely.
So very important that you put it, you catch them as soon as your query has finished and grab the data. That's in a transient area. As soon as you catch them, they go into a storage area, and so they get stored. So it's very important to do that.
Thank you, Colin. There is an option to catch stuff automatically, but I find that it ends up catching stuff on the summary screen, which is actually not what we want to do.
Exactly.
So I capture this stuff manually before moving on. Another important thing is, as this list down here builds with captured records, again, make sure you select all and export to Excel. You must make sure you select everything down here. I've been caught before by selecting, if you like, the latest stuff that I've grabbed and missed the entire list down here, and that can be painful. So back to Jim's question, what's the difference between the Pro version and the free version? I believe, Jim, the free version has a record count limit. It's certainly enough to get you started about the tool. I'd say it's got a very steep learning curve. It does help if you know a little bit of HTML, and let me explain what I mean here. If we look at a particular page, let's go back to, I don't know, let's pick one down here. I get to empty this area. So here we've got the details. We can try to use some of the pre-configured tools that Outwit Hub comes with. It can look at this layout and say, oh, is there a table layout? And it can try to grab the data using a default table layout, but it still puts all of the records in columns. Mm-hmm. Not particularly helpful. We can try lists to see if lists are better, but it's not. We're getting links and all kinds of stuff, but we're not getting the detail we want. And then the final option here is guess. Guess can work for some sites, but in this particular case, again, everything's in a single column. So we have to set up something called a scraper. So this is the scraper that was put together, and Colin, this has been updated to use expressions rather than tag values. It's still dedicated to this site. So Colin suggested that I take this approach in here. Basically, all the stuff in this half of the screen is what's behind the browser. It tells the browser how to render the data and display the rich data sets that we want to see. Generally speaking, the stuff in black is the rich text that we want to see on the page. So if I go back to page view, we really want to find this. We want to find the name, the registration district. So if I go back to the scraper, the first thing we do is grab the header. In header 1, this bit here, we've got that Ireland civil registration indexes for Lucy Keogh. Do you see that?
Yes.
Header 1 start, header 1 finish. So we grab that, anything before header 1 start and header 1 finish is the record that we want to, or the data that we want to extract from the page. Carrying on down to something a bit more obvious. Here's the name. And we're asking it to match on anything between there and there. So we're saying, here's the marker before the value of the data we want, here's the value afterwards, and that will grab Lucy Keogh and put that field in the name section, and so on and so forth. Match on registration district, and it will grab Rathdrum and put that in the registration district. And we go on, so on and so forth throughout the whole page, filling out these markers before, markers after. Then what I like to do is to execute, capture that one record, and go back to page view. So here we can see what's been captured, and we can compare that to what's on the page. Maybe if I can make that bigger. No, I can't. So if I get rid of some of that background material, we can see we've grabbed Ireland civil registration indexes. We've grabbed the header OK. We've got the name OK. We've got the registration district OK. We've got the event type. We've got the registration quarter and year. Before a certain year, there's no quarter. There are annual returns. Estimated birth year, because the age at death here was given as 16. The mother's maiden name field is blank. Film number, volume, page, digital folder and image. So some pretty powerful stuff. And Tessa, I'd argue that because yours is an Irish name, there's going to be a lot of spelling variants and occurrences of that name in this particular source. So once you're done, if we go back to the source, you can leave this stuff running in the background. You haven't got to really sort of monitor it all constantly. We've got 1938. You can export all of that stuff to an Excel spreadsheet, and here as a chef would say, is one I've prepared earlier. So here are all the Keogh exact spellings extracted from here. The good news is this didn't take too long to do. A few hours, I'd say, running in the background.
Colin, I have a question about the scrape setup. And is that something that is default in the software, or did you have to set up that particular one by checking each of those, I don't know what you call them.
Yeah, understand.
Title blocks?
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. You do have to set up each and every extract for the website, which is why the learning for this is a bit, not only for every website, Jim, you've got to look at each specific data set as well.
Okay, I'm not sure how that was done.
Right.
That was the last bit that Bob showed us by selecting those tags and adding
But see,
them
they
in.
were already showing on the screen. That's what I'm confused about.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of advanced
It
for
is.
what we're doing today. But I think the good thing about this is telling us that there is a scraper, and maybe not everyone has to come up with their own scraper. If we know what the data set is, you know, and you do the scraper, you can share your scrapers, is my understanding. You can like send somebody, this is the information you're going to need to stick in at this point so that you can do this particular record set, SSDI, Irish births, you know, whatever.
On that particular
true?
website, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly right.
The thing to bear in mind, as we found this morning, between Bob preparing the scraper for FamilySearch and actually running it today, FamilySearch had altered their page. And so the scraper had to be updated this morning live to make it work. Now, this is a challenge, and this is something that has been the source of much discussion on the Roots Dev group about standardizing on these micro formats. And there's been some pressure put on FamilySearch and Ancestry to all start sharing these same microdata formats so that first name in FamilySearch is the same as first name in Ancestry, and everybody will use first name as first name, and so on. So there is some pressure for standardization, and hopefully over the coming years we're going to see these microdata formats actually being agreed upon and made more useful for us going forward.
I have a couple of comments to throw on the table here. I own a software development company and internet application provider, and one of the problems is this now is going to freeze further development of such screen designs. Any minor change in a screen and the scraper is no longer valid, which means you lock down the development at a certain point and people will not allow you to move on. GEDCOM is an example. It almost begs for having yet again another tool, and there's choices out there such as XML that behind the scenes will allow people to extract the information and move it into their own format, be it Spreadsheet or family management software, and yet still allow the developers to change the front-end screen, the visible part. This is a doofer, in my opinion.
What they're trying to sort out, though, Jim, is the fact that a last name, it doesn't matter what you call it, it will have a tag of last name, and it doesn't matter what website it's on. If the data that comes after that name tag of last name, it doesn't matter how the page is constructed, providing that data field name is called last name, it doesn't matter. And that's the same with the way that Outwit Hub works, because you're looking for that name field inside the TD tags.
Yeah. Well, this is where XML really comes to the forefront, because the tags will be standardized universal, as opposed to what I see as the web page HTML for rendering the information on the screen. It's just one point of view that I have, but this may be one step moving forward to more standardization.
You ought to join the Roots Dev group, Jim.
Well,
I don't know that I have the time.
No, the other Jim Benedict.
And the other thing to keep in mind is this is a tool for us to use to be gathering this information, and a scraper might change, they might change their page and we'll have to update it, but it's certainly much better than going through one at a time and trying to, copy and transpose, and that works for times when you have short information, but it's simply a tool. Nobody's saying you have to do it one way or the other, but if we can figure out this tool and make it easier to gather that data, so then we're spending more time analyzing the data. That's the point, and we're going to have to learn a little bit of this, and maybe some of the people who are more skilled. Where did the plane land?
Jim's back garden.
Okay. It's coming to visit. But
it's not here.
Okay.
No, the other one.
No, I do agree with you, Tessa. It has certainly moved things forward. I just see the next goal, the next landing strip for this, if you will, in my experience in software development. Our system handles a tremendous amount of data, and standardization of the conveyance of the information from one computer system to any other computer system is very, very important to my industry. So I see the opportunity, I see the possibilities. I'd love to see it. Colin is right that a standardizing committee of some form that allows people to say, here is an agreed upon standard we can work with. GEDCOM is old, ancient, cranky, creepy, miserable. It's just not going to move forward. But I would like to see a standard that is going to have long legs for the next couple of decades.
Okay. And the one thing I would say here for our purposes is most of the people that I'm talking to in my region, it's more along the lines of meat and potatoes. What do I do today to gather that information? And it's all well and good to have a theoretical discussion or a discussion about how people who know how to do this work in the background do it. But my people are saying,